started. Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. It's 1:30 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled committee meeting of the Finance Executive Committee. I am the chairperson, Jennifer Ide. I know I have with me today online Councilmember Howard Shook, Councilmember Joyce Shepard, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, Councilmember Madeline Archibald, and I believe that Mr. Councilmember Andre Dickens is in the process of logging in. Okay, perfect.
I'm here verbally,
and
almost done logging.
Okay, and what about Mr. Matzekite? Are you with us?
Yes, I am here and online.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that constitutes actually the full committee, so a quorum. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ms. Kempson-Wright, can you read the remote meeting statement, please? Wondering if Ms. Kempson-Wright's on mute.
Yes, this Finance Executive Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with the official code of Georgia 5014-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by the following conference bridge: toll-free access 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which is noted on the Friday, March 19th public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, citycouncil.gov, or the Council's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages via at ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Finance Executive Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on Friday, March 19th via atlantacity.ga.rqmt.com. Public comment was accepted between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. on yesterday, Tuesday, March 23rd. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute earphones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents were distributed to committee members earlier, and we thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Kempson-Wright. This brings us to the adoption of our agenda. I'd like to make two changes to the agenda, if that's agreeable to the committee members. One is we do have two individuals who are appearing before us today because they have been appointed to serve on the Civil Service Board, which is a very important role to be played in the city, and we appreciate them being here. So I'd like to move those communications up before the presentation so that we can hear from Judge Sloan and Ms. Aquaberry, and they don't have to wait through our meeting. And then second, the majority of our public comment was about a paper considered in public safety this week that was not dual referred to Finance Executive Committee. So I would like to just post that to the website since it is not on an item on our agenda or that we are discussing today. So that's my motion to amend the agenda that I'm going to make.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on the agenda. On amending the agenda.
One moment. Madam Chair, you actually don't have to amend the agenda.
Okay.
We are not adding anything to it. If you just want to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay. Well, then we will adopt the agenda with the changes that I just described. I'll make that motion.
Second.
The vote is open.
Mr. Matzekite, don't see you coming through.
Yeah, I'm yes.
Okay.
It's not coming through on my online. I will endeavor to fix that.
Okay, let's record Mr. Matzekite as a yes. That's 7 yeses, 0 no's. Our agenda's been adopted. Make a motion to approve our minutes from our meeting 2 weeks ago.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on the minutes.
Massachusetts, yes.
The vote is open.
That's 7 yeses, 0 noes. The minutes have been adopted. All right, we're going to play our public comment that pertains to items on the agenda, and the remainder will be published on the website.
My name is Rachel DeLashschmidt, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm calling to urge you to oppose Councilmember Bond's bill that paves the way for leasing and selling the ACBC to Fulton County for their use of the jail. This bill is an insult to the years of community-led work that's been done to close ACBC as a jail, demolish it, and replace it with a center for equality and wellness and freedom. Yesterday, Councilmember Bond was so disdainful of people like me who left voicemails, calling us uninformed activists. I'm educated about this issue and I vote. I will remember my voice being dismissed. We are not fooled by the speeches Councilmember Bond makes, saying this bill is about helping those detained in Fulton County. This bill will result in more Black people behind bars. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd, for voting to hold and voting against expanding the jail. Councilmember Dickens and Westmoreland, please show leadership and speak for us as our elected representatives. Vote to close the jail and get rid of Bond's bill. Thank you.
Ms. Kempson-Wright, I thought that those were the ones we were not going to play because it's not on our agenda.
Madam Chair, you are correct. It seems like our numbering was off slightly between our various devices, and so we are pulling. That was actually Mr. Howard that we should be playing.
Okay.
Greetings to you, committee members and staff, and special greetings to you, citizens and voters of Atlanta, who have tuned into these proceedings and are taking note of the degree to which public comments made by citizens are being honored or ignored. Dan Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. Neighborhood Planning Unit R allows no committee reports, and especially no reports dealing with finance. So let's talk finance, NPUR 9. Let's talk about why you will not allow changes to the comprehensive development plan to be placed on the NPUR agenda, despite the fact that developments negatively impacting affordable housing are in the works. Let's talk finance, NPUR 9. Let's talk about short-term rentals and why there is no conversation at NPUR about the degree to which short-term rentals impact our city's affordable housing stock. Let's talk finance, NPUR 9. Let's talk about why you are supporting non-affordable housing with a price point greater than $300,000. Let's talk finance, NPUR 9. Let's talk about why you will allow no conversation about all of the situations relating to watershed management. Let's talk finance, NPUR 9. Let's talk about why Ricardo Jacobs is not giving financial reports as a representative for the Campbellton Road Tax Allocation District and no report on the Invest in Southwest Atlanta program. Let's talk finance in 2021 on behalf of the citizens of NPUR. Vice Chair Antonita Robinson, Claudius Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Alfred White, Annette L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, Sherry Williams, and all of you NPUR 9 cohorts and supporters. Let's talk finance.
All right, so that is a public comment that we're going to play today. The remainder will be placed on the website, and just so the listening public understands, the paper that came out of public safety relating to the jail earlier this week was not referred to finance, so we're not discussing it today. It was sent directly onto the full council meeting, which the next full council meeting will be after our recess and will be Monday, April 19th. So it will be the Sunday before that you can call in and leave comment on that matter, but your comment that you left for this meeting will be posted to the website. All right, we are going to go down, as I said, to section H of communications and do these two items first before we have our presentation. So item number 1 is 21C. 0032, a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Judge Herman Sloan to serve as a member of the Civil Service Board on behalf of the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 3 years. And I believe that Judge Sloan is with us today. If you are, if you would just introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about why you're interested in serving on the Civil Service Board, and we very much appreciate your willingness to serve the city.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. Most of you, or some of you know me. I served as a municipal court judge for nearly 20 years, and I retired effective December of last year. I was asked by Mayor Bottoms if I was interested in serving on the Civil Service Board, and I informed her that I was most definitely interested. I think it's an opportunity for me to transition from the bench to the board, but also, more importantly, to help ensure that the board staff, board members, and the employees and the City of Atlanta have confidence in what the Civil Service Board is tasked with doing. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to working hard, and I'll answer any questions that any of you may have.
All right. Thank you so much, Judge Sloan. Ms. Shepard.
Well, Judge Sloan, I know you well, and thank you for your service. I'm hoping you're enjoying your retirement, and I absolutely will support you being on the Civil Service Board. Thank you for volunteering and giving your service again. So the motion is to approve Ms. Ives.
Thank you. I will second that. Does anybody else have any questions for Judge Sloan? I think it's readily apparent that he is more than qualified for this role. And again, we really do appreciate your willingness to continue to serve the City of Atlanta. That was a motion by Shepard, a second by Ives. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Westmoreland?
Sorry about
There we
that.
go. 7, that's no problem. 7 yeses, 0 no's. This item is favorable, and I believe that the municipal clerk will be in touch, Judge Sloan, for next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 is 21C0033, a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Ms. Susie Aquaberry to serve as a member of the Civil Service Board on behalf of the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 3 years. And do we have Ms. Aquaberry on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had a little bit of trouble trying to unmute. Council members, thank you for allowing me to appear before you virtually today. I echo what Judge Sloan has said regarding having faith and confidence in the work of the board. I think you've got my resume. I've been an attorney since 1984. I recently retired from AT&T after 22 years of service. The last 5, I was an attorney in the Labor and Employment Group. So I think I can bring a level of expertise and knowledge to the board. I'm currently serving as an arbitrator for employment matters, so I would bring that expertise as well. And I look forward to serving, and if there's any questions that anybody has of me, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Committee members, does anybody have a question? Thank you. That's a motion by Councilmember Shepard.
Second.
I'm happy. That was a second by who?
Archibald.
Okay, second by Archibald. Let's open the vote.
Vote is open.
All right, this item is favorable, 7 yeses, 0 noes. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve the city. This is a very important role for the city and for our employees. And it's fantastic to find such highly qualified people to help in this manner. And the municipal clerk will be in touch with you on the next steps. Thank you again. All right, we're going to jump back up to section G, which is our presentations and status reports and updates. And first, we're going to hear from the Department of Customer Service for their quarterly update.
Me? Hello, good afternoon. This is Commissioner Graham. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair and all council members. My name is Salithia Graham. I'm Commissioner for the Department of Customer Service. Today I will be providing a third quarter update for ATL 311. Next slide. As always, I will start by sharing general information about ATL 311 and contact us. We are the City of Atlanta's primary customer service center for non-emergency services and information. Our operating hours are Monday, Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We can be contacted by calling 311 through our mobile app, website, and on all social media platforms. We are currently budgeted for 111 FTE. We have 3 vacancies and 16 pending hires slated to start on April 1st. Next slide, slide 3. Now we'll share a few highlights the team has achieved since we last met. We collaborated with the Mayor's Office of International Affairs on the Inform Women Transform Lives campaign to provide information related to economic mobility, gender-based violence, community safety, housing, food access, and more. This was a partnership between the City of Atlanta and the Carter Center. And to find out more information, please visit atlstrong.org. The Community Referral Program, in partnership with Policing Alternatives and Diversion Initiative, better known as PAD, launched during the quarter. This program is active in zones 4, 5, and 6. Zone 1 is slated to go live next month. I will speak on how the program is performing in subsequent slides. The last time I presented to you, I mentioned that we launched the ATL 311 Wellness Program that encouraged health through fitness, meditation, and virtual gatherings. We are continuing our efforts to promote health and wellness across the department by facilitating employee engagement activities virtually. I would like to publicly thank Dr. Cassandra Goldman, Director and Chief Psychologist of Psychological Services and EAP, for her presentation to the team last week titled, "It's Okay to Not Be Okay." And the last highlight I would like to mention is the collaboration with WorkSource Atlanta to promote COVID relief work experience opportunities via social media and our super sign. Next slide, slide 4. This slide shows our call volume by month. We continue to receive an average of 42,000 calls. Last month, we did see an increase in volume, and that was largely related to municipal court. Next slide, slide 5. Now we'll share more information regarding the PAD Community Referrals Program. The program within Department of Customer Service is being managed by Joy Quarles, who is the Service Delivery Manager of the newly created Supportive Services Delivery Team. I want to commend this team for great work that they're doing with this initiative. I also want to thank Moki Macias, the PAD Executive Director, for the awesome partnership that we have formed. The SSG team meets weekly with PAD to work through processes and improvements, so kudos to both of them for a successful launch. This particular chart on the slide is a high-level view of the direction a call comes into the SSD team. If a call is deemed an emergency, of course, we're going to immediately reroute the call to 911. And that is usually a call that is related to someone that is in danger, threat of hurting themselves or others. If the call is related to a resource request, such as food or shelter, we will reroute the caller to United Way or 211. If the call is for a person in mental health crisis, we will connect them to the Georgia Crisis and Access line. If a caller is requesting to speak with someone and don't want an in-person response, but need to talk to someone in a non-emergency capacity, we will send them to the peer-to-peer warm line. A certified peer specialist will discuss mental health, substance abuse, and provide emotional support. They are available 24/7, 365 days. If the call is a community referral for someone that is experiencing extreme poverty, substance use, and mental health concerns, then we will refer them to PAD. Calls related to homeless encampments are referred to the Mayor's Office of Constituent Services. And lastly, if we have a caller that needing walk-in services, we will refer them primarily to the Gateway Center. Next slide, slide 6. This slide shows the request that the SSD team has received. This data is from January 25th through March 15th. Overall, the team has received more than 1,000 calls, but of those calls, 319 requests were related to this initiative. 120 went to PAD, 199 went to the outreach organizations I just mentioned previously. And it's not on this slide, but I did also want to mention that we rerouted 67 calls back to 911. Next slide, slide 7. Now we'll speak about the performance of our social media team. They have received and responded to more than 8,400 messages across social media platforms since the start of the fiscal year. Twitter continues to be our most active social media platform. Next slide, slide 8. I will now focus the presentation on the top 5 request types. Since the start of the fiscal year, bulk collection requests have been our #1 request type, followed by questions and concerns related to water and sewer accounts and the establishment of water and sewer services. The list is closed out with requests related to municipal court fines and court dates. Next slide, slide 9. This quarter, I took a different approach in the way that I present the departmental data. I thought it would be more beneficial to show a comparison by quarter of the top 5 request types for each department. One thing, when you're looking at this particular slide, keep in mind that third quarter is a partial report because we are still in the midst of the third quarter. So I will start with the Department of Watershed Management. The top 5 for DWM really remains consistent quarter over quarter. Requests regarding water bills and the establishment of water and sewer services continue to be our highest call driver. You can also see a little seasonality in the volume, especially with establishing new water and sewer service and account information. The volume is higher in quarters 1 and 2. And this is, higher in quarter 1 versus quarter 2. And this is primarily due to it being summer months, so you have more water being used, and that's also a prime time for home purchases. Next slide, slide 11. Correction, slide 10. The Department of Public Works, again, #1 request type is bulk collection, followed by damaged garbage bin replacement, and requests for mixed collection. The requests for new garbage bins are showing a significant decline in quarter 1, and we're also showing a downward trend for bulk collection requests and mixed collections, which is positive for DPW. Next slide, slide 11. Now I'll talk about Atlanta Department of Transportation. Their number one request type is potholes, followed by requests for sidewalk repairs, streetlight bulb replacements, and traffic signal repairs. The volume, again, is pretty consistent with the exception of potholes. We are seeing an uptick in requests for potholes in quarter three. Next slide, slide 12. Again, municipal court is showing an increase in volume in quarter three. Their number one request type right now is when is my court date and time. We also receive requests for 912 form, and the list is really closed out with requests related to missed court date and time due to the pandemic, which is trending down significantly due to the reopening of municipal court. Next slide, slide 13. This is for APD's code enforcement. Again, here, their top five is consistent. Their number one request type is really general information about the code enforcement process, followed by overgrown grass and junk, trash, and debris. One thing you will notice is that junk, trash, and debris is showing a slight increase in quarter three, and that is, and given that quarter three is partially reported, so we are seeing uptick there. Next slide, slide 14. Lastly, we have the Office of Revenue. Their number one call type right now is business license renewal. Followed by that is the registering a new business in the city of Atlanta and questions related to solid waste charges and billing. Again, the seasonality around the Office of Revenue calls, business license renewal is our biggest call driver for them right now. The typical deadline for business license renewal was February 15th, so that's why you're seeing a significant increase in volume for that particular request type. Next slide, slide 15. Here, I just want to give a quick update regarding COVID-19. Again, court dates related to the court closure was our number one request type. And keep in mind, this data is from the start of the pandemic to now. One thing I will say is that this last quarter, we did see an increase in volume related to eviction assistance, as well as the emergency rental and mortgage assistance program through the United Way. Next slide, slide 16. I want to announce that AIM launched this new CRM platform called ATL Serve for the city of Atlanta this past Monday. I'm so excited. This was the first iteration of the platform. There are so many possibilities that I'm hopeful for. Some of the benefits that we will start to see over the next few months is an increased capability to allow better cross-departmental collaboration due to integration, call intake efficiencies, improved communication with citizens, and better tracking formerly known as service requests. So cases, you'll start to hear me refer to request type as cases versus service requests, so that is new terminology. Also, please share your feedback. I know some of your staff has utilized the new system. We have gotten some of their feedback already, so thank you for that. Last slide, slide 17. Before I take your questions, I would like to thank the Department of Customer Service and the departments that support us for their commitment to providing excellent customer service. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and do you have any questions?
All right, colleagues, does anybody have, oh, yes, Ms. Shepherd.
I just want to say that was a very thorough, insightful data in terms of looking at where our services are, where your calls are coming in from. I appreciate you all work at 311 I really send it out to my citizens all the time in my community. And most of them say that you all are doing a great job. A few occasionally I have some 311 folks to say, well, they didn't help me. But as a whole, you're doing a good job. And I appreciate the fact that you all continue to upgrade and do things to make your service better. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you.
Any other committee members? Mr. Mascott.
Thank you, Ms. Ide. Question is around open positions. How many open positions do you have right now? What percentage does that make of the workforce, and what are you doing to fill those, and how hard is it to fill?
So right now, technically we only have 3 vacancies because we just went through a major hiring exercise. We have 16 new employees slated to start on April 1st. So it's a very small percentage of vacancies that we have, and we're looking to fill those final 3. Right now, we're going through the process to get those filled as well.
So you're probably leading the pack in the city of Atlanta in terms of the fewest vacancies of any department. What do you attribute that to? Great leadership?
Great teamwork. It's definitely collaboration between myself, HR, commitment from the mayor's office, and the support that we receive. So I think it's a combination of all of that.
Well, I just want to say congratulations. Like Ms. Shepard said, I get really good feedback about your department, and one of the reasons I'm sure is it's fully staffed. And I really appreciate what you and your team do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member.
Anybody else? I do have sort of following from Mr. Massapite. Again, my office has always been a big fan of 311, and we direct everybody there. And my staff has actually done the training to be able to log into your platform and all of that. And we generally consistently get very positive feedback. We have, over the last few weeks, had people who are reporting an unusually long hold time. And I just wondered if you could comment on that. People who've been on hold for a long time, and then people, who have asked for a call back, and it has taken a while. We had a situation yesterday that happened, and then once they got the call back, they got disconnected, and they sort of hoped that the agent would call them back again since they had their phone number for the callback, and they didn't hear back from them. So it's been out of the ordinary, but it's been, more than just, 1 or 2 that I've, thought I'd mention it and ask your opinion on what you think may be going on.
Yes. Thank you so much for the question and the opportunity to speak to what has been going on. So I will start with the last couple of weeks. As I mentioned, we did implement a new CRM, which is a large component to how 311 works. This required us to conduct quite a bit of training. So that, we had to pull people off the phone, people that are typically available, in preparation for this major launch. That is what could have impacted the whole time, I would say, over the last couple of weeks. Now, yesterday and Monday, we did have a technical issue that once we identified the problem, we were able to get it resolved. So we did have a technical issue that resulted from the implementation. It wasn't the system itself. It was something, a script within our IVR that had to be updated as a result of the new system. So that is what caused some of the delays. And so I do want to apologize for inconveniencing anyone experience. I'm glad that you recognize that this is not our norm. I'm going to ask people to continue to be patient with us as we work through these one-off situations, but just know we are committed to assisting. And so if you ever need anything really from Department of Customer Service, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll make sure that the citizen is taken care of.
Well, I appreciate the explanation because it's not typical. I mean, typically we have, we hardly ever hear a complaint about 311. So it's good to know that there was a reason for it and not just that it's a sort of overall quality control. For the most part, I mean, I know you have a whole lot of new employees coming who just come in also, but as far as the new system and the training, are you sort of over the hump on that? And you should be okay. Well, yes. That is great to hear.
We are. Thank you.
I'll let you know, and I figured this was just sort of a blip on the radar that something was going on, because again, we usually get great service. So thank you for your presentation today. It was very informative. We all really, really appreciate the work that 311 does and that you do in running the department, and we look forward to hearing from you next quarter.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too, Commissioner. All right. Next, let's go to our COO, John Keene, to hear about the American Rescue Plan.
Thank you, Chair. This is John Keene, Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for the opportunity to present today on the American Rescue Plan. Given the fact that this plan was passed and adopted by Congress and signed by the President recently, we wanted to take the opportunity to make sure that we provided you all an update on the most relevant parts of the plan to the City of Atlanta, some of the eligible uses that we know of currently, our process and principles as we work through developing the allocations. And so that's what I'm going to cover today. If we go to slide 2. Slide 2 really just shows you over the course of the pandemic the different packages that have gone through the federal government in order to support, ultimately responding to the pandemic as well as stabilizing the economy. Today, we're focused on the last package, which is the American Rescue Plan, also referred to as the ARP. Next slide, slide 3. So for the City of Atlanta, there are 6 main components that I'm going to highlight as the most relevant parts of the American Rescue Plan. There is still information that is obviously going to be coming out from the Department of Treasury and other departments at the federal government. That's going to give us additional clarity on some of the details related to the amounts. But I have tried to provide you all a overview of the latest information and estimates. And so I'll talk through those. But again, I just want to put the caveat that 2 things. 1, the amounts are estimates based on some calculators that have been provided to cities. But those allocations will be finalized by the Department of Treasury as well as other federal government departments. And then 2, we will get additional guidance on the details of the eligible uses and other relevant aspects of each of these programs over the coming weeks. So the first most relevant part of the ARP is the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. The estimate of how much the City of Atlanta will receive directly from that fund is $178.39 million. Again, that may change, but that is the current estimate. That will be divided into 2 tranches, and those funds will have to be expended by December 31st, 2024. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on this because that's going to be the main focus for the rest of the presentation today. But that's the high level. The second part is emergency rental assistance. So there was some additional funding specifically set aside related to emergency rental assistance. We don't yet know how much of that funding would directly come to the city of Atlanta. There are some kind of overall guidelines that were clearly laid out in the plan. And so I've highlighted some of those here, including some of the breakdown for uses for case management and administrative costs, and the fact that it must be utilized by October 1st, 2022. We expect that we'll get, again, additional information on the specific amounts of those allocations and the amounts that would be directly coming to the city of Atlanta. Similar homeowner assistance fund, that fund is specific to prevent homeowners who have from being foreclosed on because of mortgage delinquencies, as well as prevent the loss of utilities. And those funds would have to be expended by September 30th, 2025. The fourth area is emergency housing vouchers. So these would go to our housing authority, public housing agencies. But these vouchers would be specific to those who are currently or recently homeless, to those who are fleeing domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking. And those vouchers, again, there's details to be worked out, but generally speaking, indicated that those vouchers would be valid through September 20th, 2030. The fifth component is homeless assistance and supportive services program. There was a allocation calculator that was provided to cities to estimate their allocations, and so the estimated allocation for the city of Atlanta was $8 million. We expect for additional details to confirm that data in the coming weeks. That is for providing supportive services for the homeless and other at-risk individuals, and must be expended by September 30th, 2025. In addition, the final component relevant to the city is related to the airport, and the exact amount is to be determined, but it is building off of some of the prior packages available to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the pandemic, and available through September 30th, 2024. Next slide. Specific to the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund, which is the fund that I mentioned has an estimated allocation to the city of Atlanta of $178 million. There are 6 primary uses for the funds that have at least been articulated in the kind of current plan. I imagine we will get additional details through the Department of Treasury, through guidance, as well as through FAQs, as happened with the CARES Act funds. But those 6 high-level uses are: 1, providing government services that are affected by a revenue reduction resulting from COVID-19. So that is a unique use compared to prior allocations like the CARES Act. The second is responding to the COVID-19 emergency and addressing its economic effects, including through aid to households, small businesses, nonprofits, and industries such as tourism and hospitality. The third is providing premium pay to essential employees or grants to their employers. And there's some, additional specifics around not exceeding $13 per hour or $25,000 per worker in additional premium pay. The fourth is making investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The fifth is the fact that these cannot be used towards pensions or to offset revenue resulting from a tax cut. And then lastly, it does provide guidance to cities that it can be used to transfer funds to the state for programs that the state may be running. Next slide, slide 5. In terms of principles, as we think through the allocations, we've laid out 5 principles for us to be considering. So one is, as we get more details related to what the eligible uses are, the guidance, the FAQs. One consideration is looking at areas where we've had deficits or needs incurred due to the pandemic that have not been eligible for relief under prior funding. The second is a consideration related to the fact that this is one-time funding, and therefore as we plan for the allocations and budgeting, we have to be cognizant of not creating long-term obligations that we could not identify ways to sustain. The third is that other public and private funding sources and priorities should be considered when determining city allocations to optimize overall benefits to the residents. I'll talk a little bit about ways that we're considering those things in the process for allocation on the next slide. The fourth area is organizational capacity and compliance related to both internal or external agencies that we would be looking to deploy these funds through in a timely and effective manner. And then last is leveraging best practices from national organizations and other municipal and state governments. We were invited to participate in a small group, at least a pilot group. At this point, I think they will be expanding it, but a pilot of a small group of large municipalities that receive these funds that Bloomberg Philanthropies, as well as the National League of Cities, has put together in order to help us take advantage of, one, any questions that we may have, get responses, but two, take advantage of lessons learned and best practices from other municipal governments that are deploying these funds. So that will be a helpful resource for us to have. The next slide, slide 6. So the process for allocation. Right now, we are in the process of gathering data and reviewing the needs, and so there's a series of steps that we've been working through related to that. One is reviewing our operational needs for revenue recovery and the continuation of our services related to our current fiscal year and next fiscal year, and considering and trying to think through plan forecast related to FY23 as well. We are also reviewing other public and private funding sources in conversations through regional discussions, through discussions with specific municipalities like the county, as well as talking to some of our philanthropic partners to understand where the focus has been for philanthropy and will continue to be for philanthropy, whether leveraging public dollars or philanthropy, going to specific causes. The third area is reviewing needs based upon the economic impacts. Obviously, through the prior work that we've been doing throughout the pandemic, we've been able to gather data, understand needs. So we continue to review that. We continue to try and gather information from our partners and through as many channels as we can to understand continued needs related to areas like housing, homelessness, our small businesses, nonprofits, on vaccine education and uptake, food insecurity, our violence interruption, mental health and substance abuse, youth engagement, employment, and workforce development, to list some of the key areas that we are gathering information to understand needs around. And then finally, as mentioned before, making sure that we understand internal and external organizational capacity as we consider where and how to deploy the funds. So that's where we're at now. The timeline here is dependent on when we get guidance to understand in greater detail what the Department of Treasury and other departments that are responsible for these funds, as they provide that guidance and issue FAQs. We have not received those yet, but assuming that we are able to receive those in the coming week, then we would look to stick with this timeline. If not, then we'll revise it accordingly. But the next step is ultimately, we'll have a internal committee that will review and develop draft recommended allocations for review by the mayor. Those allocations would be reviewed for approval by the city council. Right now, we are hoping, again, given the timeline for the guidance, that would be ready for review by the council on the April 28th council committee meeting after recess, and then ultimately for the full council meeting on May 3rd. The final point I mentioned is that, ultimately these will be considered and integrated with and reflected in the FY22 budget process as well, given the fact that, as mentioned, one part of this is reviewing the needs related to revenue recovery as well as continuation of government services for FY22. So it'll be reflected in that process as well. Next slide 7, and that's questions. So with that, Chair Ide, I will open it up if you have any questions or others on the committee.
Thank you. I do have some questions, but I'll let my committee members go first. I see Mr. Westmoreland has his hand up.
Just a quick one. Thank you for that presentation. Super helpful to kind of lay the foundation for the conversation ahead. Have we heard yet, you mentioned the 2 tranches and that the first one will be coming relatively soon. Any thought on how much of the total that would be and then when the second one would take place?
Right now, my expectation, based on the information we have, is that it'll be half in the first tranche, half in the second tranche. And we don't have a lot of guidance on exactly kind of what would end up being the release of the second tranche. But, based on some of the discussions that have been had, I think, it may be based upon the expenditure of the first tranche of funds or the obligation of the first tranche of funds.
Gotcha.
And so that's really what we're trying to, we'll have to get additional detail, but that is our understanding to date.
Okay. And then my last question is on the third slide with the few TBDs related to ERA and homeowner assistance and then the housing vouchers. Any sense of a timeline when those TBDs will be turned into actual figures?
Unfortunately, I don't at this point. I mean, our hope is that we'll obviously get that information very soon. But at this point, we've gotten no information on the details. And we obviously monitor, because there are some national associations and others who will put out calculators that can be helpful in giving us at least estimates before the federal government puts out the final allocation. But I have not been able to identify or received from any of our partners calculators on those particular allocations.
Okay, but the rental assistance is going to be more than the 15.2 that we already got in January?
It is additional to that 15.2. If that's the question. I don't know the amount to say that it is more than 15.2, but it is in addition to the 15.2.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other committee members? Mr. Keene, I do thank you for the presentation. That was very informative. I do have a question sort of about, and I have a particular situation in mind, of ongoing programs to make sure that we don't have a gap. And the one that I'm thinking about in particular is the rental assistance, where I have constituents I'm starting to hear from that worked to get United Way rental assistance. They've been told that the money's gone. They're now getting eviction notices and, utilities shut off and all of that. And it would just be really awful if, because there is some gap in timing, I think keeping people from being homeless was one of the number one things that we were trying to do with the federal funding that we got. So, I'm happy to provide you more details offline, but in general, for some of these where there is going to be irreparable harm if there is a gap in funding and we have to wait some window of time, I hope there's a plan to try to rearrange funding and not allow situations like that to occur while we're waiting for the new funding to be put in place.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Council Member. Certainly happy to dig in on the specifics. And I know that you've had some communication with Deputy COO LaShondra Burks, and so she mentioned it to me, and so we are engaging with the United Way team as well as others to kind of look at the specifics of that situation and others to understand what the best options are related to when the additional program, which does unfortunately have different requirements. Unfortunately, as we don't know with this next emergency rental assistance program, we don't know the specifics of the requirements that they'll put. So there are some things that we have to do to make sure that that the folks who are applying are eligible under the new programs. But that's just a bit of context, but not necessarily relevant to this situation that you're referring to. So I think we'll be able to look at the options that are available to us, given the fact that there is currently a program that will be ending March 31st and the new program that will ramp up April 1st. But for some folks who applied previously and the funds have run out, we're going to have to try and figure out what the options are. I would say a couple things specific to rental assistance, which I think, your question is probably most relevant to. One is, we can obviously make sure folks are getting connected into services so that they understand what their rights are related to eviction moratorium as well. And so that's a key thing that we want to make sure that people are, that they understand and they understand their rights related to that. But in addition to that, I agree with your sentiment and your question and, your desire to make sure that we don't have people who have irreparable harm caused as we transition from program to program.
Yeah, I appreciate that. A couple of things. One, on getting just relief through the, eviction moratorium. That just kicks the can down the road when, if there was the ability to provide rental assistance. Late fees are piling up. There's no way that these folks, and this is mostly, I have a immigrant community, in District 6 that many of them applied, and I don't know of a single one that got funding. I think that there has not been the support there needed to be for the English as a second language applicants. This will be a big black mark on the city if we had all the funding all of the resources that we had, and we failed people and they're evicted and they become homeless. So, I think we've got to look at how we can rearrange money and make sure that people aren't falling through the cracks. To say to them, oh, well, the magistrate court isn't evicting anybody right now, that doesn't solve their problem, that they have children, that they have late fees piling up, that they have the utilities turned off. And who is running the rental assistance program now that Terry Lee isn't in charge of that?
Well, you're talking about within the city of Atlanta?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So we have the kind of first level coordinator with United Way is Scott Walker, who's the director over programs and planning within the Department of Grants and Community Development. And he's obviously supported by others, including Deputy COO LaShondra Burks. And so they do most of the direct coordination with the United Way and work with them to make sure that, when issues and situations like this arise, that we problem solve around it. And they do that in conjunction with finance and law, so that we can look at, okay, are there ways to shift any funding allocations from the CARES Act or other funding sources in order to put in place short-term opportunities before the next program ramps up on April 1st. So that's who they would be working with internally in order to solve a situation like this.
Okay.
Welcoming Atlanta, the only other thing I would mention is Welcoming Atlanta has been involved, I would assume you know this, with the immigrant community and specifically working with United Way to make sure that we are better targeting and providing assistance through the last program and through future programs for that community.
Well, and my understanding is Welcoming Atlanta, let people know about the program, organized, opportunities for them to meet with United Way and for them to apply. These people, my residents, were given the impression they did everything right to get assistance. And then United Way has come back and said that, they ran out of money before they got to them. They ran out of money before they got to anybody in my immigrant community. So, as you can tell, I'm really unhappy about this. Is the ATL Strong Fund available for something like this? We've got to find some gap assistance and not make people wait and reapply to a new program who did everything that they were asked to do and applied. And I don't understand why this whole community seems to have been left out.
Well, Councilmember, if you give me some time to work through it, I think we'll look at various options like the one you mentioned to make sure that we, to your point, address the need. I mean, our goals are aligned, so.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it. Councilmember Archibong.
Yes, Councilmember Ide, I asked sort of a similar question during CDHS to Mr. Little, and he indicated that folks that were in the queue but didn't get funded and would then be first priority. That was my understanding, and he said so. So I'm hoping that is the path forward. It is certainly fair to handle it that way. So that's what he said. So we can maybe track that down.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There are some opportunistic landlords who are jumping in and, serving people and tacking on onerous late fees. And I'm just very fearful that everybody could have good intentions. And this is a community that, often doesn't have the same means to advocate for themselves and seem to be falling through the cracks. Mm-hmm. And their situation seems to get worse as time passes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's well said and a point of concern. So I just wanted you to know what Mr. Little said, and Mr. King has heard what you said, so hopefully there will be a safety net in place. But this sort of speaks to a concern that I've always had around the money available to prevent evictions and to prevent homelessness, and that is the engagement of the landlord. I think a real effort should have been made, and if it's not too late, should be made to work out concessions with landlords, right? Here's a funding source. We will prioritize you. You've got to forgive the balance. And I think it becomes a win-win, particularly when the tenant, has the means to get back on track, but not the means to get caught up. And so the city could be that arbiter, navigating this in a way that there's sort of a win-win. But I think what we've done is we've just sort of pigeonholed the money in buckets, and good luck to everybody else. And so I don't know if we have a way to recalibrate and engage in that real work of making sure we don't have this eviction tsunami, which is going to result in a homelessness outcome that we don't want to see. And so I just don't know what latitude there is to really have that engagement with landlords. Mr. King, do you know?
Well, there's a couple things that have been ongoing that relate to that. One is there was an initiative that was established, a initiative that was bringing together public, private, and nonprofit partners. The acronym was SOAR, and it related to just that, structuring a program that brought financial assistance in and was intended to also ask the landlords to take on some of the share related to supporting rental assistance. And so there are some initiatives that are looking at ways to structure that. Some of the ways that as we look at this next program, which this next program does have more flexibility in being able to pay tenants as opposed to just going to the residents, I think it gives us more opportunity to think about, ways to structure the program with that type of thing in mind. I think there's some legal things that have been brought up as concerns related to that. That's a bit beyond me, but certainly that conversation has been had, and there's been some strong Philanthropic and other partners who have been trying to look at ways to structure it in that exact way that leverages a combination of paying for the assistance, but also asking the landlords and tenants to take a share of that burden.
So is SOAR still active? Are we monitoring? Are they giving updates to your team or to Mr. Walker's team, or what's going on with that?
Yes, SOAR is still active. You know, over time, because of the fact that the relief packages have, you know, new information has been gleaned as the Congress has passed different relief packages with different amounts of money. They've kind of reshaped their efforts. It's an effort that's been going on at the state as well as regional level. And, you know, a lot of the leaders of that effort are folks that we work very closely with, philanthropic leaders in our homelessness community as well as our housing community. And, you know, we've had and continue to get updates from those partners to make sure that as we think about structuring our program, we're trying to do it in ways that align with the way that the region is looking at doing it, as well as making sure that we're matching requirements with the federal government, but also making sure that the way we structure those things aligns with the way the region and other jurisdictions are doing it. So the direct, simple answer to your question is, yes, absolutely. It's ongoing, and we are still in close contact with those folks to understand kind of exactly what format SOAR is taking as we know more about the public funds that are going to be available.
All right. Well, what I think, and I agree wholeheartedly with what Ms. I just said. I think at the granular level, the piece that needs to be stressed is what is going to happen if we don't do it differently and better. So I hear you about the accountability and the alignment, but the practicality is we are really facing a serious crisis. And how do we get in front of it? And if we need other resources or other strategies, we certainly need to be about that business. I don't want to step into a role that CDHS might be more the proper committee to be having this conversation. But I just want to stress the relief that is needed has got to be very practical. It's got to be very timely. And it's going to take a lot of innovative thinkers to figure this out. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Archibald. Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat covered, but landlords that get caught up now, is there an expectation that they don't evict right away after? Did we talk about that? I kind of got lost in the... I know Ms. I was asking similar related questions, and so was Ms. Archibald. But, you know, you're behind 6 months. We get you caught up 3-4 months. You're still behind. Can you get evicted right then and there after that? Or is there are we making agreements get signed that give people some grace period or do not evict timing?
Councilmember, I mean, we haven't discussed that particular question yet. And really, I don't have a great answer for you other than the fact that, you know, I'd probably have to consult with our legal team and the legal team of some others to understand the feasibility of that, given the fact that, you know, different state laws related to landlord rights. So I haven't been asked that question, and I don't have a great answer for you, but it's something that we can look at.
All right, no problem. Thank you for considering it. I'd imagine that there may be individuals that whatever rental assistance we provide is still leaving, you know, unless we're going to cover all of their late months or partial months, et cetera, it may still have the landlord the ability to say they're still short, and we will be putting, you know, our money right in the hands of someone who's just going to do what we didn't want them to do anyway. So I mean, it may not be the everyday all of these, situations, but it may be for some, and at least cross that question, as you said, with the lawyers to see what options we have, and if there's any kind of documents or legal, agreements that we can make with landlords, particularly as maybe somebody's grace period may be. As we get towards the end of COVID, there could be some demand for spots that people are in right now, and I'd hate for a landlord to be making a decision about who hasn't paid me, and the city paid partial, but I got a new possible tenant out here, and then that also leads to an eviction. So thanks for considering it, and that's it for me. Thanks, Councilmember Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. Councilmember Shepherd.
Well, Mr. Dickens asked a few of the questions that I was going to ask, but I do want to, I know that I have, as I've listened, I have several apartments in my community, and to be honest with you, I know about two or three maybe that are a part of the program, but I have other ones that I know are applicable in terms of being a part of this. And my question, I guess, and again, here we are in finance, and so I'm on CHS, and so Mr. Westmore, and this is maybe something we'll go back and ask at another time, but how do I make sure that as we talk about funding and money and all of that stuff that we have, is that it's getting out there, because it will be a shame that, we get to the end and the money is still there, or we're not providing the services we need. So who again is over this whole program? I think Ms. I'd ask it's Ms. Lee, but it's not Ms. Lee. So who's over this program now if I want to reach out and ask questions?
So I assume, Councilmember Shepherd, you're referring specifically to the emergency rental assistance or emergency housing assistance program?
Right.
I would recommend, if you have questions, you can obviously reach out to me at any time, but Deputy COO LaShondra Burks is the other person that I would recommend that you reach out to if you have any questions on that program.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd. Councilmember Archibald.
Yes, I don't want to play the role of attorney. Sometimes I can't help it. But to Councilmember Dickens' question, there's some argument that can be made that if a landlord accepts money after the dispossessory has been filed, that then causes a reset. The prior case will be dismissed, or could arguably be dismissed, and the landlord has to start over. That would just be a delay tactic. What I was proposing was that the concession be that if the landlord accepts the money that we have available, that they write off the rest. And it's a reset, and the landlord and the tenant then move forward progressively with future rent being paid on time. That would be the win-win. Not sure all landlords would agree with it, but I think it's a conversation worthy of having.
I think that's a great idea. Councilmember Archibald.
Me too.
Appreciate that. Awesome. And I hope somebody from the law department is listening in and heard that and can follow up with Mr. Keene about that idea. But the last thing that I just want to say about it, and I do appreciate you hearing us out on this, Mr. Keene, is, this is where the hard work comes in to do these sort of, family by family, resident by resident issues. For me, the apartments in question are some of the small amount of currently existing affordable housing in my district. And, I think it's real easy for us to approve, some project deal through Invest Atlanta and say, oh, we're doing more affordable housing. Aren't we great? We're going to build this luxury, apartment building, and some percent of them are going to be affordable. What's much, much harder to do is what we're working on right now, of keeping actual families in actual places that they can afford to be in, where their children can go. Most of these children go to Garden Hills. They can go to a good school. They can live in a safe neighborhood. And that's where the really, really hard roll up your sleeves work is. I'm hearing you. I believe you're committed to it. I, appreciate, you doing this, but, this could be a great success for us as a city if we keep people, individuals and families from being put out on the street during COVID, and it can be a big failure if we talk about all these programs and then we still have people who are losing their homes. So, I'll follow up with you. I'm happy to provide more information. You can tell by the passion in my voice that, I'm upset about the situation. I really, with all of the assistance we've gotten from the philanthropic community and particularly the federal government, we don't need to end up from having these, families that are barely making it and doing everything they should, ending up on the street when, because of a matter of timing or organization, we weren't able to help them at the time they needed help. So I'll leave it at that for now, and appreciate your update today and look forward to discussing this further.
Thank you, Chair. I understood, and look forward to working with you to get that resolved.
Thanks. Next up, we have our COVID-19 funds report from Mr. Deloche.
Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Chair, are you ready for me to proceed?
Yes, I am.
Thank you all. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to present the March COVID-19 funds report from the Department of Finance. There's no change to slide number 1. Next slide, 2. There's no change to slide number 2. This is basically established our reporting requirement as established by the three ordinances noted on the slide. Next slide, please. Slide number 3. There is a slight change to slide number 3. On the left-hand side, we have approved funding, which sets out all of the funding that has already been received by the City of Atlanta. The total right now is $454,873,659.15, and that includes a large sum from the Federal Aviation Administration for approximately $338 million. On the right-hand side of your slide, you will see pending funding. This will note that right now the Department of Aviation has submitted requests to the FAA for further funding, and that further funding totals $88 million. That is to help operational expenses at the airport, as well as to provide some relief to the concession, to people who hold concession contracts at the airport as well. Next slide, please. Move to slide number 4. This is essentially a breakdown of all of the spending for the Treasury. Originally $88.4 million that the City of Atlanta received. Right now, we are showing that we have obligated $84.5 million. We have actual costs right now at $74 million. And we have approximately $3.8 million available balance. I'd like to point out that one of the things that we'll be doing over the next couple of days is providing a complete summary to the Chief Operating Officer regarding how much funds are currently available and ready for reallocation. And so you should be hearing more about that in the future as well. Next slide. Slide number 5. This slide breaks down the spending for the grant that was received at the Department of Aviation. Right now, it is showing that $142 million has been spent by the Department of Aviation. Primarily, $107 million has gone for debt services, $28 million has gone for consulting services, $5 million has gone for employee other benefits, and $782 has gone for other employee benefits as well. Next slide, please. This slide shows our contributions that have been used by nonprofit and philanthropic organizations. $1.5 million, and we was sent to Georgia Strong Credit Union. There's no change in that. Invest Atlanta provided support for 59 businesses for the Business Continuity Loan Fund, and Invest Atlanta had $1 million that was used to provide support for the homeless population. There is no change in that slide from the original slide. Next slide, please. Slide 7, 8, and 9. They are basic slides that show all of our donations that have been received. There is no change in the slide donation for slide donations except for the monthly fee of $14 for the space that's being donated to us to store our PPE. Next slide, please. And we should be on slide 12. Slide 12 is a breakdown of all of our expenditures and the funding source for each of those expenditures. If you will recall, originally we allocated $7 billion from city funds. We spent approximately $5.2 million of that in FY20, and we spent $1.2 million of that in FY21. Of that $7 million, we have spent $6.4 million. If you look on the right-hand side, it will show what the funding breakdown for that is. 3.9 of that has been charged to CARES funding. 5,000 of that has been charged to FEMA, and we currently have about 2.5 in a budget related to city funding, where we have not actually allocated that to either CARES or to FEMA at this current time. Okay. The next portion I want you to pay attention to is the $1.5 million that was made available in addition to made available for the homeless population. Of that $1.5 million, we are charging, at least allocated and made a request to FEMA for 1.4 of that to take care of those expenses, and we're currently waiting on a response to that. The next set of expenses I want to take a look at are various expenses of the different departments. That includes funds that have been made available. Made available through CARES as well as through FEMA. This bucket of funds and expenditures include PPE supplies, CIF programs, which include the Rural Assistance Program, the Small Business Program, the Telework Program, distance learning, our food delivery program, and our public facilities, PPE, and consultants. Right now, we are showing for FY20, we spent $2.6 million. FY21, we spent approximately $61 million for total expenditures right now of $64 million. Of that $64 million that we have expended, $55 million has been charged to CARES, and we have submitted expenses to FEMA for approximately $6 million to recover, to be reimbursed for those expenses from FEMA. The next large category is for hazardous pay expenses. Our hazardous pay expenses cover two broad categories. But let me start on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, it will show for FY21, we have spent $10 million for hazardous pay. In FY22, we spent $12 million for total expenditures right now of $23 million for hazardous pay expenses. Of those $23 million for hazardous pay expenses, $15 million have been charged to CARES, and we will submit $8.2 million to FEMA for reimbursement, which gives us a total right now for hazardous pay that we've spent at $23 million. The hazardous pay numbers, they only go through December of 2020, and as I indicated earlier, those expenditures are under review for submission to FEMA for reimbursement purposes. Right now, our total expenditures are showing $95 million as we respond to COVID-related activities. And that concludes our report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deloche. Colleagues, anybody have questions about the COVID-19 update? All right, I don't see anybody with their hand up. Thank you, and we are going to move on to finance for our fiscal year 21 monthly general fund revenue report with Ms. Daniel.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. So today, Finance brings to you the General Fund Revenue Budget Comparison by major category for the month of February. This FY21 monthly general fund revenue report for February is prepared pursuant to 20-R-4006, which requires that Finance provide an update to the Finance Executive Committee at the second regularly scheduled meeting of each month, and reporting shall contain detailed information regarding collections for each of the general fund revenue streams and how collections compare to budgeted revenue. As customary, this presentation begins with a listing of general fund major revenue categories and provides the FY21 adopted budget amounts by major category. The FY21 adopted general fund budget is $680 million, which includes a $41 million supplement from fund balance. Next, a comparison of FY21 February projections year-to-date versus FY21 February actuals year-to-date, which represents 8 months of fiscal year 21. In total, February year-to-date actuals are $490 million, which are lower than year-to-date projections of $502 million by $12 million. An analysis of the major factors by category is as follows. And I'll start with the positive bright spot variances first. The property tax variance of $6 million is higher than budget. February property tax collections were over $4 million. The year-to-year February comparison shows that we have collected almost $4 million more this year at $225 million versus $221 million last year, even though this year's due date was a month later. Again, we fully expect to achieve the full property tax budget of $232 million over the next 4-month horizon. Local option sales tax is trending higher than year-to-date projections by $7 million. Sales tax continues to be a bright spot in general fund revenue collections and underscores a robust consumer demand despite the pandemic challenge. The public utility and alcohol category includes 15 active revenue streams with varying cycles of receipts. As such, this major category does not conform to a straight line methodology. This category includes alcohol licensing, alcohol excise taxes, which contributes primarily to the $3.1 million negative variance in February. Specifically in excise taxes, through February, we have recorded actuals of $4.3 million versus a year-to-date February budget of $8.2 million, which is a $3.9 million negative variance against budget in alcohol-related excise taxes, which includes tax by the drink and wholesale alcohol monthly remittances. Licenses and permits revenue is lower than projections by $14.5 million. The primary driver is due to lower alcohol and business license receipts. Through February, the budget for alcohol and business licensing is $29 million versus actual revenue of $10.9 million. It is well documented that the hospitality and restaurant industries have been heavily impacted by COVID, and businesses are challenged with sustaining their operations, which jeopardizes general fund revenue. Fines and penalties have a negative variance of $4.2 million, and it's directly related to the previous COVID-induced closure of city courts and lower parking enforcement. Through February, parking fines represent the majority of the variance noted. The budget for parking fines was $4.5 million, and actual revenues were recorded as $456,000. Hotel motel, the negative variance of $7.8 million is directly related to the depressed demand stemming from COVID-19. The erosion of business, convention, and tourism activity has reduced demand, hotel occupancy, and thus results in lower room rates. Economists anticipate this trend to continue until a vaccine is readily available to all population groups and consumer confidence in traveling rebounds. The last two columns compare FY20 February year-to-date actuals to FY21 February year-to-date actuals and show a negative variance of $57 million Obviously, last year's revenues were not impacted by COVID and are higher than current year. The FY21 budget includes COVID-related revenue impacts. And this ends the February revenue report presentation, and I yield to your questions. Thank you.
Council members, does anybody have questions on the revenue report? I have one question, Ms. Daniel, that I think that I saw this last month and I didn't ask about it. On our fund balance transfer, I think from our original budget, it had been a different split between the general fund, and then was that a planning fund? The one that says EP?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Has there been I think we had started at more like 34 and 7, hadn't we? And this is now showing a more even split between those two fund balance usage.
Yes, ma'am. This was called out to us from planning. The allocation was not properly allocated in the previous iteration. The total amount of $41 million stays the same. It's just the allocation between general fund and building permit changed a bit as a function of guidance that we subsequently received from building permit staff.
Okay, so can you just give a little bit more of an explanation of that? What is the building permit fund allowed to be used for? And if Mr. Council's the better person to answer that, I'm fine with Mr. Council jumping in as well. That's just a pretty big shift saying we're going to pull 12 more out of the building permits fund. So I want to make sure I understand how that matches up with the permissible use of funds in that fund. Is our CFO with us today? Mr. Council, you with us?
Okay, yeah, can you hear me now?
Mr. Gaffney? Oh, there you are. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, my line was just unmuted. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, the allocation and the way that we actually represented the split was, as Ms. Daniels mentioned, we actually used $12 million of the bill and permit fund to actually help balance the budget for the planning department. But then during the course of this year, they also requested an additional $7 million, for some projects that they needed to use the funds for. So that's how we got up to the $19 million. And so within our fund balance, there was an allocation that was moved from the bill and permit. Initially, it was outside of the fund balance, but the last administration decided to move about $50 million of those surplus dollars into the fund balance upon their departure. And so within our total fund balance, we have some dollars that are restricted just for the building permit function. And we've used that to actually address some of the needs over in the planning area. But we also, again, being redundant here, we use $12 million to actually help balance the budget for the fiscal year, in addition to the $22 million that we use from the unrestricted fund balance. That's how we got to the $34 million. And we've added an additional $7 million during the course of this fiscal year as a request from the planning department for some projects that they needed to use. That's how we got to the $41 million.
Okay, so remind me, back last June when we passed the fiscal year 21 budget, didn't it show as 34 and 7 back then? Is that right?
Well,
or was it even different from that?
Yeah, it was a little different from that. So we showed the 34, but the 34 actually consisted of $12 million from the bill and permit fund balance, then 22 from the unrestricted fund balance. I mean, they're all lumped together when we talk about the total fund balance. And so that's how we got to the 34. Yeah, so the 12 was inside of the 34. And so we've decided to break it out now based on what Ms. Daniels actually stated, that the planning department wanted us to be more specific in demonstrating the use of the building permit fund balance. And that's what we've done here.
Okay, so that full 19.3 has to be used on things related to the planning department, or what's the scope of what? Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. And it's for building permit activity.
Okay, so they are sort of, I mean, this may be oversimplified, but in a way, we're sort of asking them to carry their load and funding themselves. So funding is part of their operations this year.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then back to either you or Ms. Daniel can answer this question. So are we still feeling confident that there will be, some federal funds to fill the hole that we are looking at right now, but hopefully won't end the fiscal year in?
Yeah, those are the discussions that we're having with the mayor's office, and as Mr. King mentioned earlier in his presentation, that the new ARP will allow state and local government to supplant lost revenues, and so we're in communications with the mayor's office about trying to make sure that we can cover the deficit that we have at the end of fiscal year 21.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Council and Ms. Daniel. That concludes our presentations and reports and updates. I am going to, if it's all right with the committee members, our airport GM has asked if we can get to his papers because he has somewhere to be, and even though I'm mad at him for leaving, I'm going to give him this one last courtesy of jumping to his items, which are going to be number 25 and then number 46. So if you will go down to that section of your agenda, if you're looking at the paper agenda, number 25 is on page 9. It is 21R 3290, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to purchase sole source procurement SSG 1210225 interactive employee training, part 139 module in accordance with section 2-1191 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for an interactive employee training course module with the American Association of Airport Executives at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport in an amount not to exceed $128,500. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. And Mr. Selden, if you'll just tell us what this is for and why we're doing a sole source on procurement on it.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I appreciate the courtesy, especially this being my last council that I will be attending here for probably for a long time. But thank you. This is a system for training our staff. AAAE, which is the airport executives for American Airport Executives, they produce this training for many airports around the country. It's part of our FAR 139, which is our certification training with the FAA. It also provides security and safety training and driver training. And the beauty of this system is that part of it is web-based, that people don't have to come in on overtime. They can do it at night. But if they do have to do the security sensitive information, they do come into the office. They do we have 37 computer stations, and the training that they have to take makes up 9 modules. The FAA training is 23 subjects. AAAE is sole source. They are the experts in this field, and there is no other company that produces this kind of training system that is kiosk-based or in-house based with the 37 computers and also on the web. And we've used this system for years and years here at Hartsfield-Jackson, and it's exceptionally good at training people, and the FAA recognizes it as the gold standard. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Second. All right, let's open the vote.
Vote is open.
Oh, and Councilmember Archibald had let me know that she has had to step away from the meeting, so if you'll mark her as away. All right, this item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. And then we're going to jump down to item number 46, which has an amendment to it. I don't, let me look at the amendment, see if that changes. All right, it doesn't change the title, so the caption, so I will read that. 21R 3032, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to execute special procurement agreement SPG 1210154 jet bridge equipment purchase and sale agreement with Southwest Airlines pursuant to Article 10, Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances on behalf of the Department of Aviation to purchase 2 passenger boarding bridges and equipment at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport in an amount not to exceed $667,400.00. Amount shall be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. There is an amendment, if you look in your packet, that updates the funding account in the resolve clause. So I will make a motion to amend.
Second.
That was open the vote on the amendment.
Vote is open.
This was favorable on the amendment, 6 yeses, 0 no's. Mr. Selden, what can you tell us about this paper?
Yes, Madam Chairman. There are 193 jet bridges here at Hartsfield-Jackson, and the city owns 191 of them. We started a passenger boarding bridge rehabilitation project in 2012, and we do like 2 at a time to not impact the operation. And in 2014, Southwest believed that they wanted to replace these bridges ahead of our schedule. So they went ahead and did it at a cost of $1,026,000. And we are now going forward, and we believe it's in the best interest of the city to own all 193 bridges so we can, if airlines leave or come or go, that we have the flexibility that we own these bridges. So we are actually going out and buying these bridges. The bridges last 20 years, so this was bought in 2014, and we've amortized it down to a cost to us of $667,000. And when we complete this transaction with your support, we will own all 193 bridges, which is in the best interest of the city. Thank you.
All right, sounds good to me. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable as amended. 6 yeses, 0 no's. I see Mr. Shook has his hand up. Those of us on transportation said all of our goodbyes to Mr. Selden this morning. You will definitely be missed. You've been just a fantastic servant to the city of Atlanta, done great things with our airport, and wish you weren't going away, but you've left us in good shape if you have to do that. Mr. Shook.
Yeah, I'll start the bouquet throwing from finance. Captain, on behalf of my constituents, I cannot thank you enough for your candor and your experience and your candor and your passion for aviation, as well as your candor. You will be well thought of after this, and just on behalf of everyone, thank you for your service to the city and your country. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Shook. People have said that I have jet fuel running through my veins, and I believe that's probably true at this point. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. I think the rest of us said our goodbyes earlier today, but from everybody on the Atlanta City Council, we really do appreciate your service to the city. We wish you the best. Mr. Selden let us know this morning his family is staying in Atlanta, so he will keep his ties here. And who knows, maybe some holiday when you're back home with family, you'll want to come make public comment and visit us at City Council. But thank you again for your service, and hopefully we will see you again just as a happy, content resident flying through the greatest airport in the world.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate it, and it's been my pleasure to serve and to work with the Finance Committee, and it's just been great. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you, Mr. Selden. All right, let me take us back up to the top. I don't think I have done our ordinances for first read. There's only one, so I'll just read through that in section I, item 3, 21-0197, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to anticipate and appropriate the Northwest Atlanta Industrial Area Freight Cluster Plan Grant by amending the fiscal year 21 Intergovernmental Grant Fund, fiscal year 21 General Fund, and the fiscal year 21 Northwest Atlanta Perry Bolton TAB Fund, an amount not to exceed $312,500 and for other purposes. So that item will come back to us in April. Going to the top of our regular agenda, section J, ordinances for second read. Item number 4 is 21-0082, an ordinance by council members J.P. Matsakite, Howard Shook, Andre Dickens, Matt Westmoreland, Demir Faroki, Dustin Hillis, was substituted and amended by Finance Executive Committee to amend Charter, Subpart A, Article 6, Chapter 3, Section 6-315B, Subsection 3 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for the purpose of increasing the 3.5% appropriation of the City of Atlanta General Fund for the Public Infrastructure Maintenance and Improvement Account to 5% in order to ensure adequate annual dedicated capital account funding for routine maintenance, repair, and replacement of public infrastructure and for other purposes. This is a charter amendment. This is its third read and final adoption before it goes on to City Council in April. And Mr. Matsakite, I think you worked with the department and finance and got everything, tried to address most of the questions about this. Is that my understanding in earlier version? So are we ready to move this one on?
Yes, we are, Councilmember Ide, and that is correct that I did work with the finance department and made sure that the legislation could be done in a fiscally responsible way. And so we put in some guardrails there to be sure that when we can afford it, we will put this money to good use for transportation infrastructure. So motion to approve.
Second.
Great. All right. That was a motion by Matsakite, second by Shook. Let's open the vote.
Vote is open.
I've lost my connection. This is Shepherd. Yay.
All right. Let's get Shepherd. Okay. Let's see. There we go. 6 yeses, 0 no's, and this item will finally move on in April for approval. And thank you for all of your work on this, Mr. Matsakite. I think this is really going to help with our infrastructure backlogs that we have on the transportation front. Item number 5 is 21-0159. An ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute all appropriate documents that would grant a utility easement across the real property known as 2353 Metropolitan Parkway, Atlanta, land lots 91-102 of District 14 of Fulton County, Georgia, to Georgia Power Company for the purpose of installing underground power distribution facilities, waiving the Real Estate and Procurement Code, Article 10, Subdivision 3, Section 2-1571, 2-1572, and 2-1574 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes. This paper has an amendment that we need to make that adds the exhibits that are a map and a draft easement agreement. So I'll make a motion to amend.
And I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Shepherd.
Can someone come forth and explain this project for me, please?
Yes, do we have Mr. Jurgen or Ms. Bradley or Ms. Glenn Snooks? Can we make one of them available to speak?
Yes, this is Mike Jurgen, and I'm director for the Department of Real Estate. We have a police precinct number 3 that needs to have power connected to it, and so in order for power to get over to the facility, then this easement is needed so that Georgia Power can install the lines.
Okay, so is this additional power because the power is already at police precinct number 3? Is this something over and above what's already there? Does anybody know?
Generally, it's where we're going from above ground to underground.
Is this a request by Georgia Power?
Yes.
Okay. So I think so the reason I ask that is because I'm having, apparently Georgia Power is doing a lot of this along the corridors now. In my district, I'm getting calls and complaints from other folks in Brownsville Road, to Cleveland Avenue, to even on Metropolitan Parkway. And people are calling me, and I'm just finding out yesterday that Georgia Power is the ones that's doing all this and doing things underground. But apparently what they have not done is notified people in the community of this. And so it's interesting that we're having this one particular location at the police precinct, because I believe it's the same project that I found out yesterday that Georgia Power is doing. And I just need to ask in terms of right-of-way, and I don't know if this is the purview of the utilities, but if you're in the right-of-way and there's a city of Atlanta and Georgia Power is actually doing things, would they not have to get a permit from the city of Atlanta if they're doing these things from the right-of-way? And I don't know why it's just police precinct, but maybe I don't understand it. But I have a question about that process and that procedure. Can you explain that to me?
Well, depending on the nature of the request, but generally speaking, of course, there are lots of provisions where under a franchise agreement that Georgia Power can, locate and supply power and all without even going through a lot of the formal processes. But in this case, if they're needing or wishing to go from an aerial underground power to underground to service one of our buildings, then we would normally go through the formal agreement like this to authorize it for them to go under here. There is no provisions that I'm aware of for public notification of this type of transaction.
Okay. All right. And I approve this as I'm thinking about it. I know the rationale behind this, but I'll just ask another way from Georgia Power in terms of what else they're doing in my district. But they're doing something on Metropolitan, Cleveland, all these same concentrated areas. I just thought it was tied to the same thing, but it may not be. But I have no problems with this. Thank you,
We probably have a dozen or more of various requirements, including impacts to Department of Recreation and various entities that are impacted by not only going underground, but just adding power sources to certain areas in different communities. But there is no actual public notification other than what you're seeing here in the world of the legislation itself.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd. I think that we had a motion and a second on the amendment. So let's open the vote on that. Vote is open.
Aye for me. I'm still out of the system.
Let's see, Mr. Dickens. So Shepherd is a yes and Archibong is a way. There we go. Okay. 6 yeses, 0 no's on the amendment. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
Aye to Shepherd.
I'm sorry, is it 6-0? My machine's a little bit messed up. Ms. Kempton, are the votes in on this?
Yes.
6-0? Okay.
Yes, favorable as amended.
Favorable as amended, 6 yeses, 0 no's. I've hit a strange button on my computer. I'll try to figure that out. The next item is item number 6, 21-0160. There is a substitute. Let me just see. Okay, I don't think that the substitute changes the caption on it. It is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor who designee to execute amendment number 6 for FC 5597 citywide elevator and escalator services with license Krupp Elevator Corporation on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, Atlanta Police Department, Department of Aviation, Department of Corrections, Department of Parks and Recreation, Department of Public Works, and Department of Watershed Management to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period of up to 7 months beginning April 8th, 2021 through October 31st, 2021, and to add sites located at 160 Trinity Avenue and 2353 Metropolitan Parkway, Atlanta. Police Department Zone 3 to the scope of services in an amount not to exceed $524,340 in accordance with Section 2-1163, subsection C of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to bring the substitute forward, which it looks like adds some additional sites for this work.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on bringing forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
All right, the substitute is the 4th. That was favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. I have one question before we vote on this and I'm getting a little bit of feedback. If people could mute their phone. For the law department, since this isn't going to have a final vote until after April 8th, are we going to be okay on this paper the way that it's written, or do we need to add something in about retroactivity? Anybody from law can jump in and answer that question for me.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Amber Robinson from the Department of Law. I am so sorry. Could you please repeat that question for the Department of Law?
I noticed, I was looking at this, that it's to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis beginning April 8th, 2021, but because of recess, we're not going to approve it until after April 8th. Does that create a retroactivity issue, and do we have the right language in here to address that?
Okay. We have Senior Attorney Camille Small-Simon on the line who is able to address that question. I believe she is trying to unmute at this time.
Okay. If our AIM folks, our T folks can get her off mute, that would be great. And maybe it is that section that's referenced. Maybe it is the 2-1163.
Hello, can anyone hear me? Yes, we can hear you now. Hello? We can hear you. Hello? We can hear you. Hi, this is Camille Smith. I'm an attorney in the City of Atlanta Law Department. Okay. Okay, perfect. No, I think that the language that we have it seems to be we're getting a lot of right. That the language we have in the ordinance is written sufficient identifies the retroactive date that the month extension should be effective, and then it contains the 21163 language, so I think we're okay. Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you so much. I'll make a motion to approve on substitute.
Second, Metzger.
All right, I think that was Massacite first. Let's open the vote on the motion to approve on substitute.
The vote is open.
All right, it says 6 yeses, 0 no's. It's favorable on substitute. Next item is item 8, 21-0-0162, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend Ordinance 20-0-1612, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on October 19, 2020, and approved by operation of law per City Charter, Section 2-403, on October 28, 2020, authorizing the mayor or designee to extend the term of the agreements FC 9275A, City of Atlanta Wellness Center, on behalf of DHR with HealthStat Inc., and FC 9275B, City of Atlanta Wellness Center, on behalf of DHR with Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of Georgia Inc., to include the correct initial term of the agreement and to authorize funding in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000 and for other purposes. And I think that we are correcting a mistake on the initial term on that. Is that correct, Mr. Amos, if you're with us?
Yes, Louis Amos, Director of Employee Benefits. Yes, Madam Chair, we're just correcting terms in the ordinance.
Okay. And what is the current status of the Wellness Center? Is it open or is it closed under the mayor's order?
Yes, ma'am. So the Wellness Center was closed obviously in March, but it opened back up basically during the November time frame. They were able to do the on-site COVID-19 testing starting in August, and they, basically doing it remotely. But they are now back in the Wellness Center, and they're doing designated on Fridays that they're doing COVID-19 testing on an as-needed basis. They're also providing care to employees who basically need to have any kind of non-urgent care type scenarios, and those who may be using the center to be able to get some of the maintenance medication. So they are functioning. They're also doing some telephonic phone visits in terms of visits to Kaiser and both HealthStat. So they're operating not totally at I would say probably about 65, 70%. The fitness center itself is closed, though. The fitness center is closed.
Okay. Does this agreement before us also address the fitness center or just the health services?
It's the health center, ma'am.
Okay. And since we have not been getting the sort of regular volume, I mean, it's been different. I don't know. Maybe there's been an increase in volume, but is the pricing the same? Is our cost the same, even though it hasn't been open to our employees for in-person services?
It's an annual contract, and the level of services, obviously, for those few months that it really wasn't operating, basically, it changed at that time. But at this point in time, we're actually seeing somewhat of an uptick in the level of services, basically by the testing that's being done, and also with folks now being able to do telephonic phone visits and them serving as a triage for the employees. So the utilization is actually kind of back to somewhat of the level it was prior to the pandemic.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me, and I just realized that's item number 7. I'll make a motion to approve on 8, and then I'll go back to 7 after we finish up 8.
Second, Westmoreland.
All right, second from Westmoreland. Let's open the vote. The vote is up. This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. Let me backtrack to 7, which is 21-0-0161, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget by transferring to and from appropriations the amount of $107,531 to adequately fund the high-density filing system installation and floor support project for the Department of Law and for other purposes. And it looks like this is moving from non-departmental reserve to the Department of Law. I'll make a motion to approve, although I do have a question from the law department, just sort of as we watch our dollars and cents in this year. It's striking me that this might not have been something that was originally budgeted for, and is that the case? This is a new project that we didn't know about when we passed the current year's fiscal budget.
I'll second that motion while we get an answer.
Hello? Yes, it's the Hickson City Attorney. Can you hear me? We can. Okay, great. Yes, you are correct. This was not originally budgeted for, but it's a project that we've had to take on because of once we return to the building, we will need to consolidate our files such that we can use some of the rooms that we have been storing files in. So this allows us to do it, but because they're high density, there has to be reinforcement to the floor. Oh, okay. So like the actual weight of the file. Yeah. Files. Okay. Right. It's a space saving measure. Okay. The tree lover in me hopes that you do as much electronically as you possibly can. I sort of hate to see do, but spending money on them. Yeah, we've got some ancient, old documents that we have to retain, but we are moving to more electronics in terms of documentation. Okay. All right, I think there was a motion and a second by Westmoreland. Let's open the vote. The vote is open. This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. Thank you, Ms. Hickson. We've done 8, so going back down to 9 is 21-0-0163, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to enter into a third amendment to lease agreement with Chester Avenue Law LLC the Georgia Limited Liability Company for approximately 3,500 square feet of office space located at 890 Memorial Drive, Southeast, Suite 006, Atlanta, Georgia 30316 for the Atlanta Police Department Task Force Unit Mini Precinct to provide alternate parking, waiving Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes. There is still somebody, I think I'm picking up somebody maybe listening to the meeting on their phone. So if you're not speaking, if you don't mind muting, it's hard for me to concentrate and hard for the public listening in to hear. I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Mecca.
All right, there's a second by Matt Sakite. Let's open the vote. The vote is open. This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 noes. Item number 10, 21-00164, an ordinance authorizing the executive committee to ratify services rendered in connection with agreement FC 6120, citywide janitorial services, Group B, C, and D, with American Facility Services, Inc., beginning January 1, 2021, and to authorize the mayor and designee to execute a seventh amendment to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period of up to 10 months, retroactively effective January 1st, 2021, through October 30th, 2021, to add the Department of Public Works and additional sites to the agreement and to add funds to the agreement on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, the Department of Watershed Management, the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Atlanta Police Department, the Department of Human Resources, and the Department of Public Works in an amount not to exceed $1,715,304.0 in accordance with Section 2-1163 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. There's an amendment. I'll make a motion to amend, which the amendment, find this real quick. The amendment is going to remove a funding account in Section 3. So I'll make a motion to amend. And
Madam Chair.
have Mr. Shook. Yes, Mr. Shook.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I rise to a point of order. I've been dutifully making seconds without evidently being heard. I come to find out that my line has been intentionally muted for reasons that I do not understand and probably will find unacceptable. Can I get an explanation as to why?
It was not my request. I don't know. Can somebody find out why Mr. Shook has not been able to be heard?
We've discussed 4 items, any one of which I might have had questions about, but did not have the opportunity to ask them if I needed to.
Yes. Madam Chair, on the logistics side, we have to manage the feedback that we hear, which sometimes comes not only from the administration, but also from the members that are on the committee. And so we quickly try to manage it and unmute them as well. So we do apologize for any time that Mr. Shook or any other council member for that matter has been muted. But we do know at times we can get some unnecessary feedback, conversations that you don't want necessarily during your meeting.
Okay, well, just for the record, there's no one here. There's no dogs barking. TV's not on. Stereo's not on. I'm not eating Doritos. So, yeah, the problem may lie elsewhere. I would like to be able to speak if I need to for the remainder of this meeting. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything on the items that we have covered while you've been involuntarily muted, Mr. Shook, that you would like to ask about?
Well, I'm sure this is a dream come true for some, but no, I'm good. I've been actually just trying to second things.
Okay. All right. So we are currently on number 10. I had made a motion to amend, and let's let Mr. Shook second that since we can hear him now.
Yes. Shook seconds.
All right. I wondered where you were, actually. So. All right.
The vote is open.
Let's see. All right, that was 6 yeses, 0 no's on the motion to amend. I will make a motion to approve as amended. I do want to call on Mr. Davis, though, and just ask what the status of this is on procurement, since we're doing both a retroactive piece of this and a month-to-month going forward. So I'm going to make some assumption that this is in procurement and moving slower than was hoped for.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the council. That is correct. We actually kind of pulled the original piece. We realized that there was some verbiage that had been left out of the first package. And in addition to that, we actually add some additional sites. And so we actually have that pretty much put back together, and we are ready to submit and go out for bid on these.
Okay, thank you. All right. So there's a motion to approve on as amended.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable as amended, 6 yeses, 0 no's. Next item is number 11, 21-0-0165, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a lease agreement with APS Support, Inc. for the lease of property located at 69 Mason Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia, 3S3S7, DeKalb County, parcel ID number 15-201-03093, and the contiguous property located at 1504 Hardy Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 3S3S7, DeKalb County, parcel ID number 15-210-03094, consisting of one building and an adjoining vacant lot, for use as a Zone 6 mini precinct for a 3-year term commencing on April 1, 2021, and ending on March 31st, 2024, authorizing a rental rate of $1 for the term of the lease agreement, authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid from 1001 General Fund 240401 APD Uniform Patrol 5223102 Operating Lease Rental Land 3223000 Patrol and for other purposes. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. Item number 12 is 21-0-0166, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget to create additional department organization members within the Oracle financial system for the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and for other purposes. This motion to approve.
Second.
So for the vote.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. The next one is item number 13, 21-0-0167. We're going to have an amendment on this. Let me just make sure it doesn't change the caption. I don't believe that it does. So, the caption of this one, my computer's being slow on me. An ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to execute special procurement agreement SDS 1210228 annual contract for the disposal of treatment waste with Georgia Waste Systems Inc. doing business as Waste Management of Atlanta pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options effective March 1st, 2021, an amount not to exceed $4,150,000. $0.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and accounts listed and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to amend, which adds the IPRO review report onto it.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open.
All right, the motion to amend is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 noes. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable as amended, 6 yeses, 0 noes. Item number 14 is 21-00168, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute all documents necessary for the additional acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the Morris Mill Road and Howell Mill Road intersection improvement project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney, in the event negotiations are unsuccessful, to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declarations of taking method OCGA 3231, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contracts of work and payments for property interests to be paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes. There is a substitute, and apologies, my computer's being so slow. I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute. I'm going to
Second.
Tell you what it does in a minute. Let's open the vote on the bringing forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
Substitute adds a whereas clause to reference the impact fee legislation that authorizes the project. All right, the substitute is before us. That was favorable, 6 yeses, 0 noes. Mr. Maxwell, is this your neighborhood? Or is this Mr. Shook?
It's not 7.
Yeah, I think it's 8. The address is what?
It's Morris Mill and Howell Mill intersection.
Yes.
And good things are happening there?
Good things are happening there. I'll move approval.
Okay. Happy to second that. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
This item's favorable on substitute, 6 yeses, 0 noes. Item number 15 is 21-00169, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to authorize the CFO to amend the fiscal year 2021 intergovernmental grant fund and trust fund by transferring appropriations from the Department of City Planning and adding appropriations to the Department of Transportation in an amount not to exceed $16,831,291.09, and authorizing the CFO to transfer the department organizations and accounts as listed herein in connection to the Department of Transportation and for other purposes. And my understanding is the administration has asked us to hold this cycle. So that is my motion.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on the motion to hold.
Vote is open.
There was 6 yeses, 0 noes to hold. So we will get back to this item next month or so. Item number 16 is 21-00175, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith authorizing the CFO to amend the fiscal year 21 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of blank dollars awarded to the city pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, authorizing the CFO to transfer appropriations to provide up to blank dollars, the total of which shall be utilized to respond to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 or its negative economic impacts for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure, or for premium pay for eligible workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 pandemic, and which may be transferred to assist with any of these efforts without specific limitation and for other purposes. And my understanding is this one also is not ready to move forward yet, and the request is for us to hold it. So I'll make a motion to hold.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on the motion to hold.
The vote is open.
That was 6 yeses, 0 noes, and that one will remain held in committee until we have the details that we need on that. I'm going to take the next several, 17 through 21, as a block. They're all council member funding papers. So item number 17 is 21-00178, an ordinance by Councilmember Jennifer Knight authorizing a donation not to exceed $1,000 from the District 6 carry forward account to the Olmsted Linear Park Alliance to support the Druid Hills group of the DeKalb Remembrance Project for the Equal Justice Initiative's Porter Turner lynching marker and for other purposes. Item number 18 is 21-00181, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the transfer of $12,000 from the District 9 carry forward account to the Department of City Planning for the purpose of providing matching funds for the Northwest Atlanta Industrial Area Freight Cluster Plan and for other purposes. 0182, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing a donation amount not to exceed $2,500 from the District 11 carry forward account to National Church Residences to support the virtual Rise and Shine of Breakfast Food Champion older adults and for other purposes. Item number 20, an ordinance is 21-00183, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith authorizing the transfer of $20,000.00 from the Council District 1 carry forward account to the Council District 1 at large salaries firm part-time account and for other purposes. And 21 is 21-00184, an ordinance by Council Member Andrea L. Boone authorizing the transfer of $5,000 from the Council District 10 carry forward account to the Council District 10 distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. So that is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Make a motion to approve all of those items.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on those 5 items.
The vote is open.
All right, each of those 5 items is favorable with 6 yeses, 0 noes. Item number 22 is 21-00186, an ordinance by Councilmember Jennifer Knight authorizing the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs to accept a donation of artwork installation on Greenwood in Virginia Highland valued at $17,500 from Andrew Filer and Laura Adams, to accept a donation of $2,500, the donated maintenance funds, to support the future maintenance of the donated artwork to authorize the depositing of all donated funds accepted pursuant to this ordinance in the Public Art Trust Fund and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve. This is one of my constituents that has donated a piece of art to be down on city property right near the Beltline. So thank you to Mr. Filer and Ms. Adams, and thank you to Mr. Witherspoon from the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs for shepherding them through this process of selecting an artist and a piece of artwork and having it donated to the city.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Items favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. This brings us to section K, our resolutions. Item number 23 is 21R 3288. A resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute amendment number 1 of Emergency Procurement Agreement EA 1190-749 Microsoft Emergency Consulting Support with Microsoft Corporation to increase units for Active Directory migration services on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management, Department of Watershed Management, and Department of Aviation, amount not to exceed $180,000.00. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes. There is an amendment for 23. I believe it, Ms. Kempson, right, does it add the iPro report on this one? I don't know why my computer's so slow and let it just click back and forth.
It actually updates the funding account for AIM and updates the contractor name in the final resolve clause.
Okay, all right. So I'll make a motion to amend.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
That's 6 yeses, 0 no's. The paper has been amended. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
Vote is open.
So item is favorable as amended with 6 yeses and 0 no's. Item number 24 is 21R 3289, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs to accept a donation of services from Norfolk Southern Corporation to relocate the Samuel Spencer statue from the David R. Good building located at 1200 Peachtree Street and to store the statue in a warehouse owned by NSC on an interim basis until such time as the city shall identify a new permanent location at which to house the statue, to authorize the mayor to enter into any necessary agreement in connection with the donation and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 no's. Right. Item number 25, we did with Mr. Selden earlier. Item number 26 is 21R 3291, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor who designee on behalf of the Department of Finance to exercise renewal option number 2 for FC 9013 cost allocation consulting services with MGT of America, Inc. for a term of 1 year and amount not to exceed $95,930.00. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from Fund 1001, General Fund Department 200101, non-departmental account 5212001, professional services, function activity 1512000, accounting and for other purposes. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Let's open the vote on item 26.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable with 6 yeses and 0 nos. Item number 27 is 21R3292, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor and designee to issue task order number S21062 for contract FC 10641J with Kingsford Parker Fry JV LLC for the purpose of making Chastain Arts Center parking lot repairs as evaluated and deemed necessary by the Department of Parks and Recreation in an amount not to exceed $140,575.89. All work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. Mr. Massicat, it's your lucky day today.
It is,
You too, isn't it?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on 27.
The vote is open.
This item is favorable, 6 yeses, 0 nos. Item number 28 is 21R3293, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor designee to issue task order number FC10640C13 for contract FC10640C, job order contracting services with Johnson Lowe Skyline Atlanta JOC Contracted LLC for conceptual design and programming services at multiple city-owned facilities to assess facility conditions and operational readiness on behalf of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $210,000. All work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. And I've been told that the department would like us to hold this, so that's my motion.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote on 28 to hold.
The vote is open.
Six yeses, 0 nos. This item will remain held in committee. We are in section L of the agenda, our dual referred items.
Actually, they just got to the last one on the resolution to hold it at 20 and 10,000.
Okay, we can hear everybody. Can you please mute your phone?
That wasn't me.
Thank you. No, it wasn't Mr. Shook. I'm not going to call it a name who I think it was, but everybody needs to stay on mute unless you're speaking or your name is Howard Shook. All right, 29 did not make its way to us. Neither did 30. So let's see if we have any dual referred that made it out of their first committee. Ms. Kempson, right? I don't see anything in this section. Is there anything I'm missing in section?
In section L, no, Madam Chair, you're correct.
Okay.
Nothing made its way to us.
Okay, and in M, I don't believe that there's anything on held other, let's see. We did 46, that was Mr. Selden's paper. I believe that's the only one that was ready to come off of held. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Anybody on the committee have anything else that they want to bring to the committee today? Otherwise, I think it's time to make a motion to adjourn and say happy recess to everybody. And we will come back from our recess and have start off our first council meeting on April 19th at 1 p.m. Is that, to have that correct? That's the first meeting after our recess?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else from the committee, thank you, everybody. Everybody enjoy recess. We have some big items like the tree ordinance to get to when we come back. So everybody, I hope, can have a little bit of time away, and thank you for being here today. Make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Motion seconded.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.